Hi there, welcome to Cube Consultancy's next podcast, and today we've got Chris Clark, who is part of the Cube family these days and is very passionate about greyhounds. It came through Richard's connection to greyhounds, and we've started becoming a bit of a niche in the sector. Do you want to tell us more about how you got into it?
I think it was more the other way around. It was like,
oh, was it?
Chris had been in it since the age of 15.
Oh yeah, he was first.
And my addictions come relatively late in life, but boy, have I been addicted.
Anyway,
He's
it's
made
an
up for
understatement. He has made up for
anyway,
it.
with no
Caught up.
further ado, Mr. Chris Henlow Clark.
Yeah, love that intro.
And also an accountant as well by trade.
Yeah, accountant by day, greyhound racer by night.
There you go.
That's where the passion's at.
So you've always been in it since 15 and just kept going? And
Yeah, since 15 I sort of joined in with a few of the boys, started a little part-time job just working in the restaurant as you do, and a couple of quid here and there.
Nice. Down at Henlow as well?
Down at Henlow, mate. The
Right,
original, the promised land as we call it. And yeah, just soon got addicted into it. Got really pally with the boss there, Kevin, really sound guy. Got my first greyhound when I was 18, and you know, similar to Richard's late addiction.
What was your love before? I mean, what came first? Your love of animals or your love of greyhounds, or were they more or less always been there?
It's always been there. It's always been there. Like the love of greyhounds has always been there for us. I've been there when I was younger. Went up to Walthamstow back in the day. We've done like the derbies over at Wimbledon. You know, the big nights.
The family background.
Nothing in the family background. I'm not, as my mum would say, the exception.
Right,
and
nice.
sort of the one who's a bit feral. You know, don't follow the norm.
So most people would have a paper round, or they'd be washing, cleaning cars, but you thought, no, I'll take it up a level. I'm going different. I'll become a greyhound starter at Henlow.
And that was it, mate.
That's literally how it happened.
It sort of just unfolded very quickly. I've always sort of been good at good work ethic. You know,
Yeah.
Dad's brought us up, work hard, learn the value of money and that, which is a key lesson in life, to be fair. And I just soon went into, I just loved the job. I loved the people. I just fell in love with the place, and then my roles sort of like diversified out. I sort of run the restaurant at 18. We were doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday night.
Can you remember though your first greyhound meet or race? Can you actually remember?
The first time I actually walked onto the track was in June 2008, starting off as a pot wash, like the first ever job.
Nice.
Thinking, I don't know what this is going to involve.
But you'd got a job washing pots and pans.
Mate, yeah.
But that which is the support function. It's not the actual core greyhound racing.
No, it's not. It was just a support function, and I remember just stepping out onto the track, and I was like looking at what the setup was like.
Was it the buzz?
It was the buzz, mate. It was a crowd out there. There was about 200 in the restaurant. There was about 300-400 people outside, all having a great time.
Nice.
And seeing these 6 dogs be loaded, and you're just window side, track side, so you can see everything unfold, mate. And the lids just popped open, mate, and these dogs just come hurling out. I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. I was watching them go around, and they're just caning past 30 odd mile an hour, and everybody's going nuts, cheering on their selections. And I was like, I'm in.
But you've always been in since that stage?
Since that stage, mate. And once I see that, I was like, yeah, this is what I want.
But when did you start seeing the crowds kind of filter off a little bit from, I mean, Richard, you obviously went to the dogs and you're younger. I've been, and I remember big crowds, but...
Yeah, I remember big crowds at Walthamstow, Wimbledon, even White City, yeah. But then lockdown happened.
Was it lockdown? That was the trigger?
Lockdown slowed them all down, right? But Henlow had started to sort of fade away. The greyhound industry in the UK has been reshaped and has changed and has ebbed and flowed. But 3 or 4 years ago, with the Greyhound Board of Great Britain, they tried to merge the governing bodies, and they've tried to put welfare of animals at the centre of everything they do. But they've been fighting a little bit on the back foot, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd definitely say 2019 was sort of like the eroding of people going to Greyhound stadiums to watch it. COVID had a great impact in the use of technology. People can watch everything at home, they can bet at home. It definitely has had a negative effect on the industry. It's only up until now recently that we're starting to get good crowds come back, sort of thing.
Oh, that is happening?
Yeah, it is happening. It's slowly coming back. The tracks and that are doing a lot to put on good competitions.
Yeah.
To get the people, to encourage owners, to get them back out there.
Well, we were down at Oxford recently, probably a couple of months ago, and it was a good crowd. It's a lovely setup there as well. It is changing.
What we should probably say is, Chris works quite closely with Kevin and Dave Boothby, who are track promoters, right? And they promote 4 tracks at the moment.
Yeah, 4 tracks, yeah.
And they recently reopened Oxford after a 10-year absence, and they put a lot of money investment into the facility. And we've all been to Oxford, and it is getting to a point where you think that is an experience, that is what people can enjoy on a Friday or a Saturday night. There's facilities, it's modern, it's fresh, it's well lit as well, which is unlike a lot of tracks. But nevertheless, people probably don't know that, you know, in the UK, greyhound racing is as much about the data that's streamed from the tracks into the bookmakers as it is about the people at the track. I mean, a greyhound promoter doesn't need 2,000 people going through the front door to turn a profit. You know, the book is really, that's my bugbear, is the fact that the sport is to a degree driven by the bookmakers and their desire to have more races and more dogs and more betting opportunities. Whereas, you know, what used to be semi-part of British culture in the 50s and the 60s, which a night at the Dogs, night at Walthamstow, go down Wimbledon, the gold jacket. Now it's more about flow and you know, the provision of more and more and more racing. And some people have then ebbed away from that because it's been, you know, if you have a meeting 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, you're less likely to go and be engaged as a member of the public as if it's on a Friday night at Oxford. And having Oxford back, I think, is hopefully going to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key to it is all like the race meetings, and when you get them, you know, quite rightly, you know, an 8 o'clock meeting doesn't spur me on as an owner to go and buy more dogs, because part of me owning dogs is I like to go and watch them.
Yeah.
So I like to be part of that and enjoy it and see their journey and see them go through the ranks and up the grades, you know, similar to what you like to do. It's really interesting. You are right when you talk about, like, you know, the money aspect of it. You know, 2019 was when Henlow, we signed our first contracts to go over to bags meetings, and like the money was treble, 4-fold compared to what you was paying. So when you were saying, like, you know, pre-2019, it was all about, you know, you get people through the gate to keep the sport alive, to keep the track running.
So up to that point,
it was very much reliant on, you know, don't get me wrong, you still got paid for doing it, sort of thing.
Bums on seats was
was massive. It was the footfall through the gates that drew, you know, you wanted every week. You wanted them to be, you know, selling out the restaurant.
So that's the biggest change you've seen?
Biggest change I've seen.
That must be massive.
Massive. And then, like, you know, and now you can just, you know, survive off of these new contracts because of how the industry is just so evolving and it's growing.
Do you think it will change again?
I think it is. I think it's a forever growing beast. I mean, you know,
it's definitely shape-shifting.
Absolutely. We're supporting now, you know, like, you know, the Australian market by putting on these 8 o'clock meetings. We're supporting, like, you know, European countries' markets, like we're moving into them. So, you know, it's not just staying within the UK, you know, and Ireland and everything, but now, like, completely going worldwide.
For the United States, because a lot of states have outlawed greyhound racing. Like recently, Florida outlawed greyhound racing.
Oh, did they?
And now you've got, you know, 1 or 2 centres of excellence: Australia, Ireland, the UK, who are providing that service for the world. And I think they need to work on reinforcing and strengthening that brand, because it is, you know, we are positioned first amongst equals in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there's a big battle at the moment going on, like with the RSPCA. I don't know, it's been quite mainstream in the media in terms of, like, you know, stopping greyhound racing and its cruel and stuff. And it's something that sort of just, like, infuriates me as an owner, because, you know, and pretty much for yourself, Richard, or any actually dog lover out there, like, we, you know, all dogs get treated equally. You know, I even make a statement, like, you know, to the Yannies that you'll always get, like, you know, if you come and saw the kennels, my dogs would eat and sleep better than some humans will. I said, because we just give them that love, care, and they get all that attention that they want. They've got fields to run in, they've got the track that they love to do. They're hunting animals, that's what they do by nature. So they enjoy doing it. And you soon notice the difference, like, when they don't want to do it anymore. They let you know. And they have that. You have that, like, adaptation from the racing life to the home life. I mean, I've had my fella who was my first greyhound, Savannah Hugo. He was my first ever one that got me really addicted to it. Lovely big old dog, and he was at home with us. He's sadly passed away, but he was like, you know, he looked at us, he told us he was finished at the track. And, mate, he would just sleep all the time. He'd sleep every day. He'd get up, go to the back door, we'd let him out for a toilet and whatnot, mate, and he'd do the same every day.
Are you seeing more new trainers, new owners, obviously?
What we don't really want to get hung up on this particular podcast is the ethics of greyhound racing and whether or not it's a true or a fair sport. because I think that's quite easily put to bed. Because if you go to the Dogs Trust anywhere up and down the country, you tell me how many of those 15,000 dogs looking to be rehomed are greyhounds. The answer is less than 100, because the greyhound industry takes care of itself.
Yeah.
The greyhound industry has the Greyhound Trust, which every greyhound that goes into racing, a bond is invested in that dog. So when it comes to retire, the funds will flow and provide a good home after it. Typically a greyhound might retire at 4 or 4.5. An average greyhound might live to 11 or 12 years of age. So for 2/3 of their life, they are retired.
Yeah.
So they're not allowed to race till they're 15 months. They might race as a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and maybe a 4-year-old, and then they enjoy their sofa along with their owner. So irrespective of whether or not you believe or you think it's fair, every single person I've met in the greyhound sector, starts and ends with their love of animals. They love their dogs. They give their dogs the best, and I think the point you make is that they eat a lot better than some humans and some kennels. But that's just a personal perspective, because it's a very misunderstood industry, and it's an industry that is reshaping and has improved beyond recognition in 5 years.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's especially with like the support of like the governing bodies, like the GBGB, who's the Greyhounds governing body, and they have done an awful lot to keep an eye on dogs from like when they finish to when they retire. There's like the bond investments, which is key. You're paying right at the beginning to give that dog a good start at the end of its racing career. And you could argue like beforehand, back in the early 2010, 2012, like that era sort of thing, it may have been a little bit loose is the word I'm going to say, but some massive improvements as the game's evolved. All of the aspects have gone with it, in terms of like not just from the track and the structure of like how we run them, but like also the governing bodies. And there's a lot more, I've seen a lot more support in independent like rehoming places going up, with people within the greyhound industry who want to help and look after it. So
is it a case of just educating the public? Is that the main thing that you think?
I would say for me, it is, as Richard said, it is very a misunderstood market and industry. And I think if people were to give it a time, and we was to do the right, give people the education on it, they would soon come around and they would see. And you could, there's probably stats and stuff out there now that you can see the rehoming percentages going up of dogs, the traceability of all of them, the way that the chipping's been changed, all goes hand in hand. So you get like the full circle, I'd say,
Well, I mean, a stat that, we'll finish on this point, which is that last year there was about just over 1,000 injuries to greyhounds running at the 20 tracks around the UK. So that's around about 1,000 animals that were injured or experienced injury through racing. Last year in the UK, 300,000 dogs were put to sleep because their owners couldn't afford their vet bills in the UK. So put that in context, which I find tells me everything I need to know, which is that the industry takes care of itself. The industry does put greyhounds' welfare at the centre of everything it does. But it has shrunk. I mean, just before the war, just after the war, there was over 100 greyhound tracks around the UK. There's now 20. Chris works in and around 4 tracks at Toaster, Oxford.
Yep.
Henlow and Suffolk Downs, and that represents about obviously just under a quarter of all tracks in the UK. And you see it, and you see the people who come to the tracks. There's the promoters of the track, there's the greyhound trainers, there's the owners, there's the people who actually work at the tracks, and then there's the people who actually visit the tracks and enjoy the sport. So where would you like to start?
I think we just like to start with the people who actually visit the track, because what you want to put on for people, and as if you went out into London, you went to the theatre, you're going there for an experience. And one thing that I've always said, and what we aim to achieve, being working in the environment, when people come there, if they just come to the restaurant, you want to make sure that they have the absolute best experience of their lifetime, to say, do you know what, I'm coming back again. Because a little stat that I heard, for every negative experience, 10 people will hear about it. But for every one positive experience, only one person hears about it.
Probably about right.
So like the margins that you need to like sort of work on is just so against you. So you need to make sure that you're producing from all of the different key areas that make up that greyhound experience, from not just the racing on the track and making sure that's all good, but it's like the bars, it's the restaurant, it's you know, keeping everything nice and tidy, the entrance, you know, it's what people come for. It's what you're paying money for, right?
What would you,
so you want the best
change if you could do anything with the rules? Is there anything that you feel like the industry itself, in terms of the racing, is there anything that could be done that's better?
That's a good question, actually, to be fair. If I'm going to answer it in two parts.
Okay.
I'm going to answer it from like a rules and regs side with greyhounds. They've recently like introduced like a what we call a 4-day rule for greyhounds, which means they can.
Controversial.
Yeah, I'm a little bit for and against it, but like I would change it because I think sometimes, you know, greyhounds are very highly strung and they need to run, you know, once, twice a week. The 4-day rule that they've introduced means that obviously they can't race. If they race once, you have to call off for 4 days and then you can go again.
When did that come out?
It's been last year. It's a new one they brought in, and it actually caused like a bit of a stir, and you know, everybody's got opinions on it. Some are with it, some are against it.
What did it replace? What was the previous rule?
Well, it was no rule in place.
Oh, right. Trainer's discretion.
It was trainer's discretion to sort of just, you know, again, probably to try and, you know, maybe manage like, you know, the welfare potentially of the animals in terms of not overrunning them, sort of thing. But then trainers know their dogs. They see them every day. They wake up with them every day. They go to night with them every day. So you know what you want inside and out. You know, some of them need that run to keep them fresh. You know, to exert their energy that they've got pent up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I would probably just look at reviewing that, and I'd actually probably change it because, you know, people don't run them just for the sake of it. You know, they love their animals. It just goes back to that original statement. You know, everybody loves their animals. You want to look after them. So I think if you got rid of it, you know, it sort of, you know, will make the market better. It'll make the tracks better as well, because the tracks suffer as a result of this. Yeah. Because obviously, you know, we're churning out between the 4 tracks. We're running 16 meetings a week across 4 tracks. And you're looking on an average race card, you know, Sundays and Saturdays are 84 dog requirement. And then during the week, you're looking at 66 dogs. So when you're doing that by 16 times, you know, you're talking like the turnover, you know, you're running about 2,000 dogs.
So that's put the pressure on the promoter as well as the trainers.
Well, everybody.
Everyone feels that squeeze.
I worked out that in 2021 there was 600,000 greyhound runs at tracks. So that's the provision of 600,000 dogs that are brought to peak of fitness for that race on that day. So that happens 600,000 times a year, roughly. You know, and it's just a phenomenal effort all round. You have to mention everybody. I mean, we've got together. I mean, Chris was recently outed on Greyhound's Racing Post Greyhound TV as an accountant as well as a dog lover. He was actually not a lot of people knew that you were actually an accountant by day and a dog lover by night.
Everybody's always asked me like, what do you actually do? And I've always just sort of kept it to myself and just say, oh no, you know, a little bit of this and just, you know, greyhounds is what I do. And when I sort of, you know, I was just promoted it basically just live on Sky TV and just said, well, I'm actually an accountant. You know, I've studied hard to sort of reach towards the end of it and finish my qualifications.
You've only come out this year, haven't you?
Yeah, only just come out. Yeah.
But that was a conversation between you two down in Henlow, right? About what do you do?
Well, the thing is that a lot of the trainers, a lot of the owners, you know, some of the rehoming centres, you know, Chris has helped with their taxis as an accountant. He's helped them on, you know, I can probably help you with that. I can show you a few pointers, but there comes a point where, you know, for specifics, you may need some specialist help, be it a capital gains tax or a particular income tax question. And that was where, in conversation, it became apparent that we could have a little link up. The Clarkey, the face of greyhound racing, and Cubed, you know, the chartered accounts of choice, and so there's a lot of synergies, wasn't there?
Absolutely, and it sort of just went hand in hand, and it just felt naturally. Do you actually remember the first time we met each other at Henlow?
Yeah.
Can you recall the conversation that we had?
No.
Can you not? We were sitting down at a table with one of our trainers there who has my dog's called Graham Payne, like a real nice guy. Right. He's been in it like 40 years, lives it, breathes it. Yeah. And we were sitting down just having a chat, and we were saying, you know, Richard was saying about, I've just brought all of these dogs and, you know, came round and Kirsty's got them. I know another trainer who I know, you know, love her to pieces, known her for years since I've been at Henlow. And we were just sitting there talking about, like, where do you want to be? Like, what do you want to achieve? And you were just like, I just love buying dogs. And I was like, so how many have you got? And he was like, well,
be careful, this might have to be edited out.
yeah, I was like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm thinking about 10 at the time, and I was like, how many more have you got? And he was like, I think it's growing quite rapidly.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way it came onto my radar was one of our clients one of our oldest clients is Humphrey, the vet.
Yeah, of course.
And I was round the vets one evening doing boring things, probably like VAT or counting stocks of medicines, and Terry Nevin came in with a greyhound that had possibly injured one of its legs, and I was there and helped Humphrey to hold the animal whilst he got x-rayed. And to cut a long story short, Terry and Kirsty Nevin were just looking to set their own business up because they just dissolved a partnership with Jamie.
Yeah.
And so it was like an introduction, and then a month later Mark and I went down I think it was in June or July, it was a very hot day, we went down to the Nevin Kennels.
You went to visit?
Yeah, we went down there.
Yeah, we went down to the Nevin Kennels and we said, we'll do your accounts, we'll set up a company for you. Met the family is involved in the training, and they help either on race day or at the kennels itself. And we said, next time you're by the office, come by once a month with your receipts, and we can make sure we get your VAT returns in, etc.
Yeah.
And then the next time they turned up was when we were on the farm, and they turned up and they had a couple of greyhounds in the back of their van. And to cut a long story short, I bought them. And that was Jim Star Power.
Oh, Jim Star Power.
Time High Rhino, and one that was subsequently renamed Fairfield Flyer.
If you have a background in accounting, why are you reaching out to these guys? Like, why not do it yourself? What can they offer that you may not be able to?
Well, that's when you go into remember when you mentioned about having an internal accounting team. So they look at different things. So they might look at if a product's been profitable, and then we'll do reports upon reports upon report. You might do project accounting or something like that. Where we're different, we do the self-assessments. We report company's house, sets of accounts, HMRC. It's a different type of accountant. It's a different qualification. SEMA is completely different to being chartered.
There's basically three types of accountants these days, which is chartered, which is cubed, firm of chartered accountants. You've got SEMA, which is sort of traditionally cost and management accountants, which tends to be providing support services and profitability analytics within industry and commerce.
To a board, really. You report.
Yeah, you're an internal tool. You're a financial you're a financial expert and provide financial advice, but within one company. So your vision, what you're looking at is constrained by what that company does. So the moment Chris works in aeronautical aerospace sector. Now, if he was looking about a set of solicitors' accounts or how to manage a capital gains tax on a business rollover relief, he's never going to come across those issues day to day, because he's dealing with large multi-million-dollar contracts, supplier tenders, that sort of thing. So it's like we always say, you need to know what you know, and more importantly, you need to know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And the time to reach out is when you feel a bit uncomfortable in that space. So, as Mark said, self-assessment is probably the one thing that we see most coming through you.
Yeah, and to answer your question that you said earlier, why did I reach out to these guys? And it's literally for that reason. They cover the other side of accountancy that I don't know. Yep. And and it's why we sort of did this collaboration and this program together, because we put our passions together. I have a lot of people come up to me, greyhound trainers, and they say to me, oh, can you help me with this? Can you have a look at my accounts for me? I'm worried that I'm not doing anything and I should be. And I'm like, well, I work full time, and I think, well, yeah, I want to help because I love the people within that industry. And I said, it's not really my niche, it's not my forte. I don't cover that side of it. And obviously Mark and obviously Rich were the prime people that I go to. I trust Richard. As soon as I met him, I was like, you get a good feel about somebody, and we just hit it off from there. And I'm in Richard's top 3 of most important people, apart from Tabasco and Kano and probably the wife. Maybe Mark.
I always say you can count my friends on the finger of one hand, but I never specifically name them. Depends on the audience at the time.
Yeah. Sorry for dropping that. They were pretty cut.
No, it's cool. Tabasco and Kane, obviously 2 of the 3.
I was going to say, obviously, Richard seems very passionate about greyhounds anyway. But how important is, you know, when you're working with someone like your accountant, is it, you know, to have the same kind of passion, or even just be like invested, you know?
Yeah,
to go that extra mile in an industry like a greyhound, which is a little bit unknown with HMRC, you've definitely got to have that passion. You know,
we have clients who are boxers, who are social influencers, who are TV actors, who are, you know, and each of these genres or segments of income tax and capital gains tax and corporation tax, they're all little avenues which there's rule after rule after rule, and no one person can ever know everything there is to know about every aspect of taxation and business. What you do have with a collaboration, you know, like this, is you know what, you know, where to go, and you know the point to reach out to HMRC, or you can reach out to other accountants, or you can reach out to other firms. So we always feel that you're going to get a better answer and solution through collaboration. You know, 9 times out of 10 that's with our clients, is that by listening to our clients and their passion for their businesses, like you talk about greyhounds and your passion. You know, we learn things, and we can then, it will light something, and we can then go down a particular avenue, check something out, and maybe find an opportunity. Or maybe sometimes, you know, as it was during the COVID crisis, find a grant that's available, find some support, find some financial help, find funding partners. You know, we do that all the time. You know, a lot of.
You must find that the trainers are a little bit uneducated on what to do then. They must be a little bit blind in regards to accounts.
And it's quite, and yeah, exactly that. And like, you know, I wouldn't go to them and tell them how to train a greyhound, because I wouldn't have just, you know, a Scooby-Doo. So, you know, and they'll come to us, and, you know, they wouldn't say, well, you've done my books wrong, or I don't think this is right. You know, we're just there to help each other out. Of course. You know, and
it's advising them as well when's the right time to have a limited company
and that's it.
Sole trader, things like that.
You know? And that's one of the most asked questions I get. You know. It's that question is like, when do I go from being like a sole trader to having my limited company? You know, is it from a revenue point of view? Is it from, you know, number of dogs in the kennels? You know, it's those sort of questions and that I'm starting to hear. You know,
and it is true to say that, you know, there's not that much written down as it affects breeders, owners, traders, promoters, and you know, rehomers. You know, there isn't a schedule which tells you the rules as they appertain to the greyhound industry. You know, if you were in Ireland, and you can go, and the Irish tax authorities tell you that you can train up to 18 greyhounds, then it's a hobby. So they have no interest in taxing you or knowing what you're doing. But the moment you go above 19, they'll say you're now need to be registered. You now need to be subject to Irish taxes. It's not the same in the UK. You have to interpret and, as I said before, tiptoe through the legislation that's relevant, and where you need to, reach out to HMRC, which we've often said. You know, they are a partner. You know, they're an unfortunate partner who likes to take your money, but they are a partner ultimately, and we need to respect that, and that relationship's important to us.
Well, would you say, like, you know, we had a conversation about pigeonholing into industries, so some accountants can go to like a certain industry, and you think like, you know, with the amount of different clients that you work with, like, this is the benefit of not doing that, because you get to, you know, get educated on different, you know, fields. Especially like one like this.
Yeah, I agree, because there isn't that much out there. I do think that we probably will be one of the most well-known for greyhounds sector. I think that's where we are trying to go. We've got some really good flyers and information coming out on that sector that will help owners, help promoters, help everyone in that industry. So our target is we're never going to pigeonhole, because we want to work with so many different businesses, but I think when people do enter into the greyhound sector, I think they will know that they can come to Cubed, which is going to be good, and that's a lot to do with Chris. Obviously Richard's passion as well, but you know, Chris has definitely driven this and is a bit of a face in that sector, so he's driving it on for us, which is great.
You know, once upon a time they used to say, you know, be a jack of all trades, master of none, but what we're finding at Cubed is that we go with our clients. You know, we go where our customers need to go, and you know, by necessity that does start to make us experts in an awful lot of areas. And it's just really your capacity to take on new information And ultimately, there's only 5 or 6 taxes out there. There's only 4 or 5 things you really need to do as far as the government's concerned. So you can pinch a bit from here and give a bit from that sector. But ultimately, if you come to Cubed, we've got you covered, and we are developing the offering to the promoters, the trainers, and the breeders alike, because it's not that well defined at the moment.
No, and I think that's, I have no doubt that we will be the forefront of the bridge between HMRC, Cubed, and then the Greyhound trainers, and that will be across all of the tracks, not just the ones that I'm involved in, but once we're starting to get out there now, we're starting to do a little bit of advertising, and a lot of people are already coming in with inquiries saying,
one of those questions you get asked, which is, at what point might it be advantageous for me to be a limited company? Well, there's also a question before that, which is, at what point do I need to start recording what I've been doing? Because it became a hobby, and I've trained a few in my back garden, and now I'm training a few more. At what point do I need to register? At what point am I on the radar?
Yeah.
And we've had a number of queries like that.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions for you, Nick, actually. Is it still a hobby?
Is that, sorry, mate?
Still a hobby? Considering I know if it's still growing, what you're doing for the Greyhound stuff.
Yep.
Is that obviously the more you get small into like the financial thing? Is it still a hobby?
Oh, absolutely. It'll always, for me, be a hobby.
Always. Huh?
I think we say I love the sport. I love the people. I think it's a passion for me that drives it, because I want to look after all of those people that I've built relationships up with to make sure that they're okay. I know I don't have a need to do that, but I want to, because it's just sort of the person that I am. So I want to make sure that, if they come to me and they're a little bit worried, I can say, look, do you know what? Don't worry about it. Because one of the biggest worries I think that people have is actually the money side of it. And I don't want to be doing anything wrong, because as soon as you mention like HMRC, they get scared, the panic sets in. Am I going to have someone come knock at my door? And I don't want anybody to have that and create that unnecessary stress.
Peace of mind's important for all our clients, and especially so with people that come to Chris.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I need to be VAT registered? Should I be declaring this? I work by day as something else, and by night what do I need to do? And it's that peace of mind that people are always looking for.
Exactly, and that's what we will give, and that's what we will do. It's the whole idea of sort of, again, why we've done this collab.
Where do you think the industry's going?
I think the industry is just going to continue to grow. I mean, I've seen it since I've begun. We were running, 3 times a week at Henlow. You've seen how quick that's escalated. 1 track, 3 meetings. We're now running 4 tracks, 16 meetings. And that's over a 4-year period, actually, as of the 6th of January 2023. I remember doing the first meeting at Henlow on the 2nd of January 2019 when SIS took over, and we did our first televised bags meeting.
And you think there's going to be more tracks open up all over the country?
In terms of tracks opening, I think it's going to be hard to do. They've got a big project at the moment going on in Wales, actually, of opening a new track.
But they've also got a bit of an anti.
There's
kicking off in Wales. There was a petition signed by 33,000 people, which has been putting a bit of a.
It's put a bit of a
kibosh on that. But
what, to not build? Have they started building?
There have been tracks in Wales, and they're actually focusing on one at the moment, but there's a little bit of anti-industry sentiment that's built up within Wales. So I still think it will go ahead.
Yeah, I still think they'll get it over the line, because it's just the way that the business is, and it's the the financial backing and what it provides for communities in that area. And as you expand out, I see the stats. It's incredible to see like the turnover per race, the amount of people that are streaming and watching. I can only see it going up.
It's increasing.
It's increasing
all the time.
All the time.
When was that first bags meeting you referred to?
2019, January the 2nd. It was I think it was a Friday morning, actually, and it was Henlow actually was on his knees at that point. I mean, I've seen a lot. I always say to Kevin, there's only a few of us that have been there on that journey from start to finish, from where it was on its knees at that point. It was struggling to make ends meet, and it was really bad.
Because of what? Because of numbers, or
just because of the lack of sort of money that was available. SIS's main competitor, Entain, was providing a lot more run money at their tracks. People were jumping ship. We were losing the dogs. We were racing 3 or 4 dogs in every race on Fridays and Saturday nights, which was really not good. you know, and it was a big decision, and you know, is it going to survive or is it not?
I think it's
really worried about it.
I think it's a matter of public record. You know, Kevin first acquired the interest at Henlow, something like 2006 or 8.
Yeah, it was 2008. Yeah.
And I think he said that, you know, for 10 of the 11 first years, he was heavily subsidising it.
He was, yeah, from his.
Had it not been for his pocket and his other business interests, you know, Henlow would have passed long ago.
Yeah, exactly. And he actually lost his other 2 companies as a result.
Really?
Of saving Henlow. For none other than his love of dogs and his passions to know that this can actually go somewhere and I can actually support and benefit a lot of people. And, you know, he's proven that in my eyes, you know, to having 4 tracks.
Yeah, I mean, my mum would always say it's so easy to criticise, but so much harder to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, for whatever you may think of the industry or Kevin himself, you know, he has done. You know,
yes.
He has done a shed load for the sport, shed load for people employed within the sport, and a shed load for, you know, the betting industry that surrounds the sport. You know, so hats off to credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
I've got another question in mind that I was leading on to earlier. Was so obviously you own a bit of business yourself, so and it's a hobby of yours. So where is there like a bridge between where it's like, you know, a business is a hobby? Although I have a background of being an accountant, I could do my own, you know, all the financial side of it. Or is that the point where it's like, actually, no, I don't want to saturate my hobby so much with the financial side of it, so I'm going to pass it on to another accountant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. At like, what point do I feel like I draw the gap between thinking like, do you know what, I could do this on my own with the right, you know, studying and background.
Or when a hobby becomes a big business and it's no longer a hobby because you've got to do.
And that's when it can be ruined. And I think I can identify that line a lot, and I'd always keep it as a hobby. I would never think to myself, I want to do this on my own, because something that just, you know, helped me out when I was growing up, you know, something actually you don't know, to be fair. I struggled when I was younger, like with sort of like anxiety, and I had an older brother who was very academically good. He went to Loughborough, got first class degrees in sports science. He played for England, you know, and I was sort of always in his shadow, so to speak. So when I went to the track and he's never had an involvement, I could create myself there, and I could be myself there, and that's sort of something that helped me out through my, you know, early teens, you know, early 20s, to sort of, you know, define me. Like I'll do what I want to do and create me, and there'll be no sort of, you know, oh, that's like, you know, your brother was Clarky, you know, sort of thing. I was my own person. So
you was the Clarky.
I was the Clarky, literally that. So, you know, I sort of keep that quite close to me, and it's something that I would always keep as the hobby, because it's something that saved me in a way.
Very good.
So what's the advice then for like with business owners that are like mixing business with pleasure, as the, you know, you're saying? How do you keep that, you know,
I think
the hobby going?
I'd ask yourself this question: if you go away after you've left that, you know, that the track, or you've left your business building, and you're thinking about work, and you're thinking about, you know, oh, I've got to do this, or I'm worried about this, I think that for me is an indication that, you know, you're switching from a hobby to your business. I think if you go away and you leave that gate and you're thinking about it, you're sort of, it's not a hobby for me anymore.
And if they do
Good trigger.
To be, reach out, like, you know, just talk to people. If you're thinking like that, you know, there's plenty of people probably within that industry or whatever that nature or line of work is that, you know, talk to, go and speak to them. It's something that I did as well. It's what I had to do, you know, to sort of help me out. Like, what, you know, struggling with anxiety, like, what can I do about it? You know, a lot of people say to me, they're like, I would never in a million years, Clarky, think that you suffer with anxiety or you struggle like in open, you know, situations, because you know, I'm quite sort of an upfront guy, as you know, and I'm sort of, I'm a people person, but, you know,
very likeable, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what you said, previous podcast, you were saying, like, you know, if you're not passionate, it evidently shows in the end, right?
Yeah.
You know, in our last podcast we had Jamie Wood, and his passion for the products he sells came through. And again, here we are again talking about that keyword passion.
Yeah.
You know, if you haven't got a passion, you may not necessarily be in the right business.
No, exactly. And I think if you have a passion and a strong desire, you'll make anything work. You'll put your mind to it.
It's true.
You'll get results. You know, I mean, the key thing that I've read some good books and stuff like on the mind, and I think I read a stat in there or a little comment. It was like, you know, we as humans have the ability to make decisions. Like, we're dealt a set of cards, but like, we have the ability to change that course of the outcome, and it's all down to you as sort of an individual and how you react to it. And I think it's so powerful and it's so true. And I think, like, you know, the passion, if you want to make something work, you will make it work. That's why I come to Rich and Mark with this, you know, this little collab plan. You know, I could have probably got, I know a few other people who are accountants and have got firms, but I thought, nah, these guys go the extra mile. Like, they're involved in the business. It's not just looking after your business as Cube. The one thing that I've picked up on is, like, you're involved in all of your clients' businesses. You want them to work, you want them to be successful. And I think, like, when you say what's a unique selling point, that's it there. You guys, I mean, I've seen it with, you know, the clients that you've helped me with already. Like, people were just, they say, like, we're in the Cubed family. I love that. What statement? Like, I'm in the family, you know, and that's what you want.
You know, in the early days, we had a strapline that was, our success is driven by yours.
Yeah.
And that remains true to this day. It's like, you know, we can't grow as a family without our clients growing. And that's why we do look to understand each business, every moving part.
Yeah, and it's, you know.
I was going to say, because you work with so many people, like, all the people I've seen, it's evident that, you know, the ones that are really passionate, like, they go quite far rapidly. I mean, you look at like Linda, you know, as well. And obviously, Jamie said that, you know, he owned businesses before.
But he also said, didn't he, Jamie, in our previous podcast, you know, you can watch it on back catalogue somewhere, he also said that if he hadn't had that passion, he'd have given it up years ago. You know, and that is so true. It's the passion that's kept him going. You know, you saw the range of products he had. You saw the number of tries he's had. He's working in joint ventures. He's had different investors. He's had reinvestment. He's had seed capital. He's gone again and again and again, and he just believes it. He believes that he is improving the common good, and I think that's what, you know, we are here, you know, talking about on the Greyhound. You know, you make a difference every day.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamie, so Chris almost pretty much said it, but I was going to ask you, what is Cube's passion there?
We enjoy getting to know the clients. You know, every business, be it Jamie, you know, you will have that moment when you go, should I keep going? You know, is it worth it when you're trying to make payroll, or, you know, trying to expand the business, or where to go and get new clients? Some client falls off, or their business hasn't worked, you know. So we enjoy getting to know the clients. You know, that's the main thing. That I enjoy speaking to people on the phone all the time, and having that conversation, and where we can help them expand. You know, what have they got going on? Jamie's a prime example. You know, another product he's got, collab with his mum. Well, fine, have you thought about another vehicle? You know, Clarkey comes in most weeks, and he's always talking about a different client. Now, they might all be in the Greyhound, but they are all different.
They are, yeah.
You know, and you've got to treat them differently as well.
And what you also find in the Greyhound sector is go back to that passion, go back to the word hobby, is probably some of the most successful, maybe some of the largest owners. It remains their hobby, but it is clearly their number one passion. Yeah. But in the background, they have other businesses that they're running very successfully.
Is that common?
You look at Dave Firminger, you know, probably the biggest single successful English breeder in the United Kingdom, and he has another business.
Right.
You know, he's been successful in this walk of life, but I bet you he gets more passion from, you know, Romeo Magico winning the Derby last year.
Yeah, it's electric feeling that.
Yeah, I don't think you ever end. When you're looking at your passion, you're looking at your hobby, you're looking at this particular sector, whether you're a promoter, you know, whether you're a breeder, whether you're a trainer, whether you're an owner, whether you're someone who's involved with the rehoming, whether you're on the charitable side. You know, there is a lot of moving parts out there, but this is an industry that we're very engaged in personally, and also we're very proud to have in partnership with the likes of Clarkey, Racing Post, Greyhound TV, and a lot of the other promoters around the country. So, you know, next Tuesday you'll be able to see this man live.
TV, big screen.
Yeah, so
lovely.
Yeah, we just want to keep working in the sector, helping people. So feel free to reach out.
Yeah, so if you're a trainer who has got into the training of greyhounds almost by accident because you grew up in that sector, and now you're training 20, 30, 40 dogs, and you're worried about, should I be registered, should I be paying income tax, do I need to register for VAT? You know, just reach out to Clarkey at a track near you, reach out to us on our website, CubeConsultancy.com, and you know, we'll make the fear of the brown envelope a thing of the past.
Love it. Couldn't have said that better myself.